Hello, my name is Russell Galt and I work for Earthwatch Europe, an environmental organisation with science at its heart. We're now about 2/3 of the way through CBD COP15. That's the UN Biodiversity Conference taking place in Montreal, Canada. 195 countries plus the EU are gathered there, busily negotiating a new global biodiversity framework, one that can steer our civilization towards the 2050 vision of living in harmony with nature. I'm not there, I'm in Scotland, but following from afar. And it's been great to see so many stakeholders turn up en masse, in force, and almost unanimously call for a ramping up of ambition. We've seen youth move from the fringes to take centre stage, speak truth to power, shape debates. We've heard faith organisations representing some 30 world religions call for the new framework to be equitable and rights-based. We've heard from businesses that are throwing their weight behind the proposed target to make it mandatory for all businesses, all large businesses, to disclose their impacts and dependencies on nature. We've heard from scientists who have issued a stark warning on the accelerated use of genetic biotechnologies, and scientists from IUCN who have issued a red list update, which was described by the IUCN Director General as painting a picture of a perfect storm of human activities, unsustainable human activities decimating marine life. And we've heard from mayors of major cities who are calling for an increase in investment in urban biodiversity. Cities are of course home to the surging majority of us, and for many they offer the first and perhaps only point of contact with nature. And we've heard from indigenous people who account for just 5% of the world's population, but manage some 80% of the world's biodiversity. They are railing against the perceived threat of fortress conservation. So environment ministers are now in Montreal, and they are tasked with finalising the agreement in the precious, limited remaining available time. They have their work cut out. The text is still littered with brackets suggesting a lack of consensus, and there are 3 or 4 sticky issues which are proving particularly troublesome. Firstly, digital sequence information, how to fairly and equitably share the benefits arising from the use of digital genetic information. Another is monitoring. Which indicators will be used to measure and track progress towards the 2030 targets? Another is resource mobilization and allocation. Who's going to pay for all of this? Should richer countries pay poorer countries through some elaborate payments for ecosystem services scheme? Should we strengthen the global environment facility? Or should, as some are suggesting, an entirely new fund be established, a new global biodiversity fund? This has been such a cause of disagreement that many countries of the global south actually walked out of the hall the other day. And finally, 30 by 30. This is the proposed target to protect 30% of the world's lands and seas by 2030. Some say it's not ambitious enough. We should rather aim for 50%, in line with the late great E.O. Wilson's half-Earth hypothesis. Some say, maybe it's too ambitious. Maybe we should rather focus on improving the effectiveness of the current protected area network. And some say this is just an unwelcome distraction from the real elephant in the room, which is of course the economy, sustainable consumption and production. Nevertheless, it has been championed and touted by many countries, including the UK, Canada, France, Costa Rica and others, as nature's equivalent to 1.5 degrees Celsius in the climate agenda. So negotiators now have their work cut out, and it's absolutely essential that they put their differences aside and that they rise to the occasion and that they seal the deal. And not just any old deal, not a hodgepodge of ambiguous, fluffy commitments, but a real deal, one that works, one that can put nature on the path to recovery, one that can engender hope for the future of our planet. If you want to know why this matters, you don't have to look far. Just look outside and you'll see undoubtedly an ecosystem that bears the scars of our rapacious economy, of our environmental indifference. I'm standing in the east nook of Fife, overlooking the Forth, and in the distance I can see the Bass Rock. That's this black volcanic plug that juts out of the ocean. Now, every summer it is home to the world's largest colony of northern gannets, some 150,000 of these majestic diving seabirds. In summer it is painted white with their guano and it shimmers iridescently with their feathers. Not so much this year. Avian flu struck, and it struck hard. It ripped through the colony. Tens, if not hundreds of thousands of birds perished, and not just gannets, also razorbills, guillemots, fulmars, herring gulls, even seals are thought to have contracted the virus. A lot of wildlife washed up on these very shores. So we can see wildlife populations collapsing before our very eyes. It's actually incumbent on all of us to change our lifestyles, to change our communities, our societies, our very civilization. And just to clarify, there is a clear link between the outbreak of avian flu and intensive poultry production. So ultimately, it was our love of cheap chicken that spelt death for all those birds. Anyhow, let's hope that our negotiators, our elected representatives, can rise to the occasion and make us proud. There is still time, but it's running out.